Okay, so before we talk about the main theorem that I want to present, so let me just jot down some definitions for the sake of completeness. Anyway, whatever I'm going to present today is going to be elementary in nature. So possibly experts will find it trivial, or it will not be perhaps very enlightening for the experts. But still, let me try to present this. So definitions. So we start with, so let G be a group. And I fix an automorphism of this group G. Now with this much data, I can talk about an action of G on itself via what we call twisted conjugacy. So the action takes place via this assignment. So this is how one defines this action. So as we can see that it is slightly twisted from the usual conjugation action of G on itself. And that's why the name twisted conjugacy. And once we start with this action, the orbits of this action are called the twisted conjugacy classes. The orbits of this action. So namely, we are looking at sets of this kind. You collect all G translates of this chosen element X, and that is precisely the orbit under this action. So each such orbit is called, are called the phi twisted conjugacy classes of G. I'm sorry, actually this frictionless surface, because of that my handwriting is even worse. It's bad and it's worse right now. Anyway, I hope it is understandable so far. So the orbits of this action will be called twisted conjugacy classes. And so some notations. So R phi, let us collect all these orbits together. And if our script R file is this set, then the cardinality of this set, let us denote it by R. And this cardinality is called the number of, it's called nothing. It's just the number of twisted classes one can come across given an automorphism phi. So the question that we would want to answer or ask first is that given, so we are not going to answer this general question. We will only specify our attention to linear algebraic groups. But in general, one can make sense of this question. So given a group G, under what conditions does it, okay, under what conditions can we say that R phi is infinity for all phi in odd G? So this question is general for any group. And if a group satisfies this condition, that is for every automorphism phi, if the number of phi twisted conjugacy classes is infinite, then such a group is said to have, so if R phi, so if this condition is true, then G is said to have the R infinity property. So this is the terminology that we are going to use. And the significance of this R probably is attributed to Reidemeister. Just a minute, sorry. Or I before E or E, I after E. Anyway, let me write something. I think it's correct. Because of this person, because I think, well, I'm not really aware of the importance of this particular question, which has one of its roots in topological considerations. There, in certain situations, it becomes interesting to know under what conditions a certain group has this property. And because of those considerations, I think this nomenclature is there with us. But let me not comment too much on this, because I am not aware of the necessary definitions which one would require to even state the importance of this property in those cases. So, I mean, just we are going to treat this as a simple question that we will talk about linear algebraic groups, and we fix a group and ask this question that given any automorphism, can we say necessarily under certain conditions imposed on the group whether it has an R infinity property or not. I mean, plainly speaking, we are just trying to see that given any automorphism, is there any nice way to compute the number of twisted conjugacy classes? Because we know that in many cases we come across where if we just take the usual conjugation action of G on itself, one has nice characterizations of the number of conjugacy classes. If they are finite, then how to compute them? If they are not finite, under what conditions they are not finite? Questions of this matter. So we would like to answer similar questions for twisted conjugacy. And before we specialize to linear algebraic groups, let me just mention some known results which has come up in the past few years. So first of all, for instance, Mubina and Sankaran considered this question for irreducible lattices. In semi-simple Lie groups, real Lie groups, let's say. So they answered this question in the realm of irreducible lattices in semi-simple Lie groups. Another important theorem due to the same set of people that we just mentioned. So it says that let gamma, or let's say lambda, be an extension of a group gamma by an arbitrary countable abelian group A, then they give a set of sufficient conditions under which this group lambda will have the R infinity property. So then lambda has R infinity property if the following holds, if any one of the following holds. So the following conditions give various possibilities for the group gamma. So for instance, gamma can be a torsion free non-elementary hyperbolic group, or one can take gamma to be any one of these. One can take SLNZ or GLNZ or SPNZ, let us say SP2N. And also I mean, this thing is true for these groups as well as when we go modular centers. For instance, we take PSLNZ, PGLNZ, or even we can take PSP2NZ. So other possibilities for gamma for which lambda will have R infinity property as dictated in the paper is that if gamma is a normal subgroup of SLNZ not contained in the center. And one more possibility they talk about, which is that gamma appears as a fundamental group. So gamma is a fundamental group of a complete Riemannian manifold of constant negative curvature. So these are some set of sufficient conditions under which this kind of extended group enjoys the R infinity property. That's what they talked about. So let me mention a couple of more results which talks about linear groups over fields, because those are the prototype objects that we will be interested in mostly today. So this is due to Timur Nasibulov. Yeah. So this result is due to, let us say, Timur. So what he says is that if we start with a domain in zero characteristics, so if K is a domain, characteristic 0, and also one assumes that the automorphism group of K is torsion. So under these two conditions, he shows that, so these two imply, just a minute, imply that GLN K as well as SLN K has R infinity. So this is with respect to an integral domain. So they have some nice results in the case of GL, SL, and groups of that type over fields also. So let me mention. So if G is a reductive linear algebraic group over a field K, now this K is a field. So reductive algebraic group. So this group has R infinity property if the transcendence degree of this field K over Q is finite.
So Anirban,
Yes.
what do you mean by is torsion? That means it has torsion elements?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this was the result, which was, again, this is due to Timur, I think, if I'm not wrong, or maybe one or two more people. Let's say Timur et al. So this is true, and they produce a certain converse of this statement also, in the sense that when we fix our group to be either of the following types, so also.
So here there is no condition on the group other than reductive.
Apparently they don't require any condition. Yeah, I have not gone through the proof in details, so I'm not. Yeah, they don't put any conditions. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the field there are restrictions like characteristic 0 and algebraically closed. Yeah.
For this K, they require right. Indeed, yeah, they are not doing it over arbitrary field. Yeah. So let's put this K equal to K bar and characteristic 0, of course, because we are treating, considering transcendence degree over Q. Okay, and so in particular, if one takes G to be of type AN, BN, CN, and DN, they show that the converse of this statement is also true. Then the converse is true. So in order to settle that, what they do is they assume that the transcendence degree is infinite.
Can you tell me the conditions of this result of Timur on field of K?
Yeah, the condition is that K is algebraically closed and it has characteristic 0. Yeah, Pralay?
Last condition is K is over Q.
No, transcendence degree of K over Q is finite.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see.
This condition you were asking. Yeah, apart from that, one is also assuming K is equal to K bar. Yeah. Yeah. So in order to prove the converse, what they do is they start with a algebraically closed field whose transcendence degree is infinite, and given that much information, they could explicitly produce an automorphism of groups of these types for which there is only a single twisted conjugacy class. So that's how they prove the thing. And from that result, it is so now what we note is that the automorphism in this, while proving the converse statement, the automorphism phi which is being constructed, for which R phi turns out to be 1, this phi fails to be an automorphism of algebraic groups. So it is not an automorphism of it's just an abstract automorphism of the group G. So not an algebraic group automorphism. So once we observe this thing, the question now, this is the precise question that we would want to now ask. So we make these considerations precise first. So we fix a field K. So fix a field K, which is, let us say, algebraically closed, and we we consider G to be a linear algebraic group over K.
So you're just saying, let us say, do you need this K equal to K bar condition, or you're just simplifying for this talk?
No, for the part, no, I'm not simplifying. I mean, the theorem that we are going to state, we will be requiring that K is equal to K bar. So that's why I'm mentioning this right at the onset. But towards the end, I would like to mention some comments that even if we don't assume K is equal to K bar, split algebraic groups can be treated in a similar way. But for the purpose of today's talk, we just fix K to be an algebraically closed group. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we fix this K and we take any linear algebraic group over K. So by this phrase, what we mean is that, let me just be a little more precise. So we would want G to be a Zariski closed subgroup of some GLNK. That is what we mean by saying that G is a linear algebraic group. And now we want to specify or concentrate only on those automorphisms which are important in this category. So aut G, by this set, we mean all algebraic group automorphisms of G. And we ask similar questions that under what conditions on G can we say that for every automorphism coming from this, the R phi with respect to that automorphism is infinite or not? So this is the question. Under what conditions can we say that R phi is infinity for all phi not G for linear algebraic groups? That's what we want to answer. Okay, so if the question is more or less precise, let me concentrate the next few minutes on some elementary examples. And then gradually we will make preparations for the main result. So some elementary examples. So to begin with, let's take a torus. So I take this group T to be a set of all diagonal matrices where this Ti's, Ti's coming from K star. Say. Now, if this is our group, we take phi to be the automorphism defined by the following recipe. So you take phi of T1, T2, Tn and send it to T1 inverse of Tn inverse for all Ti. K star. So this defines an automorphism of this group T, and one can easily check that in this situation, R phi turns out to be 1. So T fails to, in general, this kind of group therefore fails to have the R infinity property. So we can forget about asking similar questions for these kinds of groups. However, one always knows that, okay, let's write it as a remark. However, if phi is just the identity automorphism, then the twisted conjugacy classes are precisely the conjugacy classes in torus. And here we know that it's an abelian group. So singletons are all conjugacy classes. So in this case, R phi is infinity. So sometimes it can be finite, sometimes it can be infinite. Well, yeah, one can give a precise if and only if condition. So maybe towards the end, I will mention for tori. I mean, under what condition? So there is a if and only if condition for on phi, which will determine when it will be 1 or when it will be infinity. And it also turns out that it cannot be anything else. Okay. Another example that we can talk about is we take G to be this group of upper triangular unipotent matrices. So let me just write it down. So all these matrices are being considered. So which is a sub of SLNK. Now, with respect to this group, let's consider this automorphism phi defined by so I send every G to D inverse where this D is a suitably chosen element. So where D is T1, T2, Tn, where Ti not equal to Tj if and only if I not equal to j. This is one condition, and obviously Ti's have to be non-zero. Ti's non-zero. So we fix such a choice of T1, T2, Tn, and fix that element corresponding diagonal matrix D, and I take every element in this upper triangular unipotent group to the conjugate of itself via this element. And if we consider this automorphism, then one can compute and one can show that R phi is actually equal to 1 in this case. So in the case of this group also, we see that R infinity property fails. Again, it makes sense to ask questions like this, that okay, R infinity fails, but can we precisely say that given any phi, how many will be, I mean, what will be precisely R phi for various possibilities of this phi? Because for this group at least, I mean, I'm not sure about any unipotent group, but for this kind of unipotent group, the entire automorphism group is precisely described. So one can hope to get some concrete answer. Okay. So, yeah. So this was with respect to a particularly chosen unipotent group. So in general, one can actually say something like this. So let's write down as a theorem. So let G be a semi-simple algebraic group. By the way, yeah, okay, I perhaps have not defined this term. Anyway, let me semi-simple algebraic group. So what we mean by this is the following. So if we start with G to be any connected linear algebraic group, let me write it as LAG, then there will exist largest, or let's say the largest. So there exists a largest connected solvable normal subgroup inside that, called RG. Let's denote that subgroup by RG. And this is, I'm just making a definition. So this G is any connected linear algebraic group. We say that G is semi-simple if this RG is trivial. So this is the definition that we are working with. So let G be a semi-simple linear algebraic group. Then, or not then, and
Anirban, there are too many R here, so.
Oh, yes. Okay, let me just add on this R with a S. It's called the solvable radical. Yeah. This is, I mean, we can forget about this R. I'm just making this definition in case somebody is not aware. Yeah. Yeah, please don't confuse this R with this R as Pralay indicated. Okay. So we start with a semi-simple algebraic group and let U be a maximal unipotent subgroup of G. So for instance, the example that we were indicating here, this UNK, whatever we have written, so in the language of this theorem, we are precisely looking at this UNK as a maximal unipotent inside SLN, as we indicated over here. Yeah, so we can just forget about this G, let's say. I'm sorry for this difference in notations. Yeah. So one can always find an automorphism for which R phi is 1. That's what I'm trying to say for a long time. Yeah. So let U be a maximal unipotent subgroup of G. Then there exists an automorphism phi of U such that R phi is 1. So I'm not talking about the whole group now. I'm just talking about this particular group U here. And one can always find an automorphism for which R phi becomes 1. This can be also proven. Okay. So now let me just mention something. So this example 1 and example 2, and let me write down another example also. So let's take 3 to be this particular example. So let G be equal to, So T is a subgroup of this kind, let us say, the one which appeared in example 1. And let U be a subgroup of this kind, which appeared in example 2. So T direct product U, let us say. Then there will exist an automorphism phi belonging to odd G, such that R phi turns out to be equal to 1. And one just can look at these two examples, example 1 and 2. So in order to define, have a candidate for such a phi, in this case, what we can do is we can take phi to be equal to, let us say, phi can be taken to be equal to phi 1 comma phi 2, where this phi 1, by this notation, what I mean is that I take phi 1 to be an automorphism of T and phi 2 to be an automorphism of U, and we take correct automorphisms. So for instance, phi 1 can be taken to be this one, and phi 2 can be taken to be this one. And if I define this automorphism phi on the whole group G in this fashion, then one can easily check that R phi is equal to 1 in this case. So the three examples that we discussed kind of motivates something like this. So turns out that so all these are examples of solvable algebraic groups, but they are not all, obviously. So if G is solvable, then it appears that it tends to have the R infinity property, but it tends to not have the R infinity property, but that's not quite true always. So then is it always true? So we can ask this question. Then, does it always fail to have R infinity property? So this can be asked. And immediately after asking, one can come up with counterexamples. So this is not true in general. So no. So for instance, let us take this example. So let us take G to be equal to, or let's take this group B. So I take all 2 cross 2 matrices of the following kind. So precisely we are talking about the standard Borel subgroup. Of G. Yeah. No, what G? Yeah, sorry. Borel subgroup of SL2K. Sorry. Yeah. Now, if I take this group, one can now check that. So what it so happens that, so let me just declare that B has the R infinity property. So in spite of the fact that B is a solvable algebraic group, in this case, one can show that it has the R infinity property. So more generally, one can make a statement like this. So let G be a solvable group. So in general, we can write G to be equal to T semi-direct U, where T is a torus, which means that I'm thinking of it as isomorphic to this diagonal matrices. Yeah, isomorphic to D and K or some K. And U is any unipotent algebraic group, and we take any such semi-direct product. So that will be a solvable group, and any solvable group will appear like this. So one can make some precise statements in this scenario. So first of all, we make these observations. So let phi belong to odd G be any automorphism. We start with anything. Now again, from the structure theory, one knows that, so first of all, one observes that if T is a maximal torus, then phi T is also a maximal torus in G. And there will exist an element. So there exists a G inside G such that phi T, let us say G phi T G inverse is equal to T again. So which means that if I take the inner conjugation map by the element small g and I compose it with phi, this becomes a automorphism of the group G, which sends the torus to itself. And anyway, the unipotent part is obviously sent to itself under any automorphism. That's okay. So this is the first observation. And one more observation is that, now this is true always, that if you take any group and take any automorphism phi, the R value of phi and the R value of this automorphism, they are always equal. This is always true for any abstract group. So in order to determine whether this group has an R infinity property or not, it is enough to verify that for every automorphism which maps torus to torus, whether such an automorphism has an R infinity property or not. Then by virtue of this, we can say that everything is, for every automorphism, one can say that the group has R infinity property. So that's what we are trying to do. So in this case, we can make this statement that if, so let us call this, let's not call anything here. So I take this automorphism and restrict it to the torus T. Now with respect to the group torus, group T itself, if we can show that this R of this whole map restricted to T is infinity, then one can say that R of this Ig composed phi is infinity. Now this can be proven in general for any solvable group which looks like T semi-direct Q. And let us come back to this example here. So what we can do over here is that I start with any automorphism of this group B, and then I compose it with a suitable inner conjugation so that the resulting automorphism sends the torus to itself. And for each such map, one checks that this particular condition is, one checks that this condition is satisfied, and hence this condition is satisfied. So this particular Borel subgroup, actually, we see that it has the R infinity property. And as a theorem, we can also mention in general that if B is a Borel subgroup of a simple algebraic group, we can also write semi-simple. Anyway, we are working on this proof. Probably it will be true anyway, but for simple, it's true. Yeah, or of a simple algebraic group. Then we can say that B has R infinity always. Okay. So this particular hunch, as we were trying to ask that if G is solvable, then does it always fail to have R infinity property? This is not true in general, but we can talk about its converse. So let's declare the statement, and it turns out to be true in that case. So we take G to be any, if G is any connected non-solvable linear algebraic group, then G has the R infinity property. Okay. So let me just make some preparations and indicate the steps which one has to go through in order to arrive at a proof of this. So let us make this preparation. So let me mention some lemmas one after another, and gradually we can get an argument. So some lemmas. So some lemmas. So lemma 1 is the one which I just indicated a little while ago. So let me just jot it down for you. So let phi belong to odd G. Then for any small g coming from the group G, let us take this. Ig denotes the inner conjugation by G. Let us say R of this is equal to R of that. And lemma 2. So we start with a short exact sequence of this kind. Let us say let's call this map I, and let's call this phi. So let this be a short exact sequence. Be exact, and let phi be an automorphism of the group G such that phi maps N to itself. Then obviously this phi will induce an automorphism of the group Q. So let us denote it by phi bar. Let phi bar from Q to Q be the automorphism induced by phi. So in this situation, we can make some statements about the R value of various phi. I mean phi and phi bar. So first of all, what we can say is that R phi is always bigger than or equal to R phi bar. The next thing is, if we assume that the subgroup N is finite, and we also assume that, let us say, and R of phi is infinity, then we can say that R of phi bar is also infinity. Which means that if N is finite and we have the R infinity information about G, then we can conclude the R infinity information about Q from here to there. Yeah. And the third thing is, if Q is finite and when I restrict this automorphism to N, after restricting, I compute the R value with respect to the group N, and suppose that is infinite, then R phi is infinite for the whole. Which means that if Q is finite, then R infinity information about the group N gives us R infinity information about this group G. Well, not, I mean, let's just talk in terms of the R value. Yeah. Okay. So this is another lemma. This lemma, so let me also mention this thing, that lemma 2 and a certain version of lemma 1 and a certain version of lemma 2 are also observed elsewhere. For instance, in Mubina and Sankaran's paper, they have observed this thing. It is also observed in other papers, but not exactly this version. For our purpose, we had to make some arrangements to the statement, and this is what we have. Okay. For the next result that we can talk about, since we are finally trying to say something about semi-simple algebraic groups, so our strategy is to talk about simple groups first, and from there we gradually move on to semi-simple groups and get an argument. So lemma 3, let us say, let G be a simple algebraic group. Then first of all, we can say that if you take G cross G cross G n times, that is again another algebraic group, and you take the automorphism group of that. Now this has a nice factorization. So this can be seen to be isomorphic to take odd G and then take its nth power, this semi-direct with Sn, where Sn is a symmetric group on n symbols. So this is important because as a consequence of this, one can deduce the following thing. So if G is simple and has, let us assume that G also has R infinity property, then so does G to the n. So this will be a consequence of this lemma and some nice computation. Yeah. Okay. So the next result that we can talk about is that, see, I mean, when we are talking about semi-simple algebraic groups or any group for that matter, if we want to say something about R infinity property or whatnot, then the first first condition which is important is that one should have a nice idea about the entire automorphism too. And for semi-simple algebraic groups, it is known. So we can make use of that information. So let me just write down some statements. So let G be a semi-simple algebraic group. Then the full automorphism group of G can be written as int G, that is the subgroup of inner automorphisms of G, times D, where D can be described as all those automorphisms in odd G such that if I fix a maximal torus T in G and I fix a Borel containing that torus, I collect all those automorphisms which sends the torus to itself and the Bodel to itself. So this is the subgroup D, and in fact, one has the following split exact sequence under certain conditions on the group G. So as just a minute, split exact sequence of this type. Where so under not always, let's say one has a split exact sequence if the group G is taken to be simply connected or you can take the group to be of adjoint type. So let me just mention this notation. So what kind of split exact sequence are we? So this gamma, where this gamma is the group of all symmetries of the Dynkin diagram of G. Yeah. Now, the importance of making this observation is that, so this lemma is pretty much, it is well known, one can find it in standard texts. So the thing is that, what I want to emphasize, in order to determine the R infinity property of the group G, because of this decomposition, it is therefore enough to look at automorphisms which appear in the subgroup D, because every automorphism will be some inner conjugation times some element coming from D. So if we can settle this question for any automorphisms which come from the subgroup D, then our job is done. I mean, in the sense that we would want to show that for any phi coming from D, we would want to declare, we would want to prove that R phi is infinite. That is enough to guarantee that this group has the R infinity property. Okay, and in order to do that, so one can make use of a nice theorem due to Springer. So let's call it the lemma again. What is this? Is lemma, I think 5. Let's call it 6. This is a theorem due to Springer. So what it says is, if phi is a non-trivial diagram automorphism of G. So by diagram automorphism, what we mean is that it's an element of this particular subgroup D. So if phi is a non-trivial diagram automorphism of a simply connected semi-simple algebraic group G, then the GIT quotient of G with respect to the action, twisted action via phi is isomorphic to the affine space of dimension D, where D is exactly equal to the dimension of the fixed point torus. So what we do is we start with a semi-simple algebraic group G and we fix a maximal torus capital T there. With respect to this automorphism phi, we compute the fixed point subgroup of T, that is T upper phi. That is again a torus inside G. Of course, it may not be a maximal torus, of course, in general. So we compute that subtorus T raised to the phi and take its dimension. That dimension appears here in this isomorphism. And this is one observation, and another observation that we, I mean, how does this thing help in our computation? So what we can see is that by definition of this GIT quotient, there exists a onto map. So if I take the set of all phi twisted conjugacy classes to be R phi, there is an onto map from here to this. And if we can show that this D is at least 1, then our job is done, because this set becomes infinite in that case. And therefore, since there is an onto map from here to there, we know that this set is also infinite. So that is the idea. So with the help of this, one can first settle the situation for simple algebraic groups, and then gradually, by making use of several exact sequences, one can talk about any semi-simple algebraic. So let me
You were saying by definition this map exists?
Yes. So why does it exist? So by definition,
This is the twisted conjugacies.
right.
Okay. That's sorry.
Yeah, because this is an affine variety.
Yeah, sure.
Which
No
comes equipped with a map which is constant on orbits.
Yeah.
And therefore, yeah. Oh, I erased this thing. Why did I erase? Anyway, so there exists a surjection. Yeah.
You can just undo. It will come back.
Undo. I don't know how to. Oh, yes. There is something like undo, no? But that arrow I cannot find. Oh, yes. I could find this arrow. Oh, it came back. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Anupam. Yeah. So there exists this onto map, and if we can show that this right hand side is infinite, then our job will be done. So last few lemmas in the last few minutes. So where is the lemma? Just a minute. Or let's call it a proposition, because why lemma? Many lemmas are there, so let's call it a proposition. So every simply connected simple algebraic group G has R infinity property. For this, we make use of this particular isomorphism directly. And once we settle this for simply connected algebraic groups, we can move very easily to adjoint types. And once we move to adjoint types, we can gradually move to any simple algebraic group. So corollary to this, every simple algebraic group has R infinity.
So Anirban, did you prove that R5 subjects onto GIT quotient or what? I mean, I don't understand what.
Oh no, so this, by the existence of this GIT quotient, there is a morphism from G.
No. I mean, what did Springer prove, and what is your thing?
No, Springer proved this thing. Okay. Because of this, we can make use of this particular onto map. I mean, so let me just say, so by definition of this GIT quotient, there will exist a morphism from G to this quotient, which is constant on the orbits. Surjective morphism, of course. Yeah. Now we take help of that morphism, which is constant on the orbits, and since it is constant on the orbits, we can just define a set theoretic map from here to there. Yeah. So as a corollary, we can deduce that every simple algebraic group has R infinity property, and once that is there with us, we can very easily move to semi-simple ones. So we first show this thing, and then so first of all, so let us call it another proposition. Let's say every semi-simple algebraic group has R infinity. So in order to do that, what we do is we first start with G to be a semi-simple group of adjoint type. We first show it for semi-simple groups of adjoint type, and from once we have that proof, we can easily make use of the very initial few lemmas. I mean, this lemma 2, by repeated application of this lemma 2, we can first we do it for adjoint type groups, and then we do it for simply connected groups. And then after this simply connected thing is done, we do it for any semi-simple group. Then it follows for any semi-simple group. And if the thing is true for semi-simple, then the main theorem that we stated for non-solvable algebraic group, that is also immediate. So we start with, so for the main theorem, so if I take G to be any connected non-solvable non-solvable algebraic group, then what we first do is we look at this exact sequence. You take the solvable radical RSG as we defined. You take this and you go to the semi-simplification of that. We know the result for this, and therefore we can, and also start with any automorphism of G that leaves this thing invariant, making use of that fact. Because of the R infinity property here, one can lift the R infinity property to this group G also. Okay, so this is just a rough sketch of the things. The detailed arguments, of course, could not be provided. If you have some more questions regarding some of the steps involved, you can ask me, of course. So this sort of completes the discussion. So now this is as far as the linear algebraic groups over an algebraically closed field is concerned. We could settle this thing. So the next hunch is that the same thing. So these are hunches with a little bit of proof. So we'll have to write down the proof completely. So the same thing, the R infinity property is, again, we are hoping that it's going to be true for compact connected Lie groups also. Then it will also be true for split semi-simple algebraic groups over an arbitrary field. So these are the things which we are hoping to get hold of, but let's see. Unless one has a concrete proof, one should not claim anything. That's why we are calling it hunches. And as I indicated towards the beginning, for tori, one can have a nice if and only if condition. So what we can do, so let me just mention that result. So let T be the diagonal matrix, group of all diagonal matrices. Let's say T1 up to Tn, such that Ti is non-zero. You take this group, and one knows that in this case, automorphisms are declared by invertible matrices over integers. So we take this, yeah. T, where we have already fixed an isomorphism of this group with GL and Z. So we can talk about this phi as just a matrix with integer entries. So one can say this thing that for phi belonging to aught T, R phi is equal to 1 if and only if determinant of phi minus 1 is non-zero. So for torus, we can precisely say under what conditions one can hope to have certain phi for which the R phi will be infinite, and under what conditions it will be 1. Yeah.
But Anirban,
Yeah.
if you just take T to be GM, just one-dimensional torus,
Yes.
then there are only two automorphisms.
Yes.
But you are saying GL1Z is just two elements. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just discovered that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is this much. Well, I must stop singing because I have sang all my songs. Yeah.
So,
Thank you for your attention.
If the group has no diagram automorphisms, what does the theorem say?
If the group has no diagram order, then obviously it is again because in that case, okay, so what happens is
It will be int, right?
So we will be only concerned with the maps of this kind, the inner automorphisms, right?
Okay. Then
This R value will be as good as R of the identity map.
Correct.
Because of that basic result. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for your attention. Yeah, I'm really very sorry for this bad handwriting. I try to upload the notes again. These will be the bad handwriting notes again. Yeah. So.
But the theorems are good.
Oh, good. Thank you. At least something is good in this presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Anirban, for this
Yeah.
very nice talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
Time for interaction. Are there questions, comments, or suggestions?
Yeah, I have one question which Anirban did not want to say anything about is where is the motivation for this? In the sense, why was one bothered about this R infinity property at all? In the sense, I would be happy to have finitely many classes.
Yes, yes. So in the situation, for instance, in solvable situation, we are coming across various cases in which the number turns out to be finite, and therefore it makes sense or it becomes interesting to answer that, okay, if it is finite, then how much is it? Can it be described in terms of certain invariants attached with the group or not? So we are trying to address those issues right now. So for instance, we are struggling with the unipotent groups which appear as maximally unipotent in a semi-simple algebraic group. And for that, since we have a clear-cut description of the entire automorphism group, we are trying to do some computations to see if something can be something concrete. Well, in this case, yeah, if the unipotent groups we are considering, in this case, if it is finite, it is only one. So, but still, one can have some if and only if condition, if possible. Yeah. But as far as the motivation for this is concerned, as I declared right at the onset, I mean, the motivations which are coming from topology or the Reidemeister-Nielsen fixed point theory, I mean, I can just only use this jargon because I'm not aware of the definitions, so I should not say anything. But somehow, roughly speaking, what people get interested is they start with some geometric situation, or let's say some topological space, which also is a manifold or something. I'm being very sloppy in this case. So what it so happens that from that space, one goes to the fundamental group there. And there is some topological invariant there attached to that manifold also. And the R infinity situation for the fundamental group kind of reflects something about that variant. This is very rough thing. I'm really very sorry for being sloppy. Yeah.
And even this, there is work of Timur on Shivale groups or something, right? What
Yes.
is that? Does that cover some split case or?
Yes, he covers the split cases, but there are some additional assumptions that
Oh,
he's
but he
taking
will work
field
with
over
that kind
characteristic
of
zero,
and
also
transcendental degree finite, those kind of.
transcendence degree kind of restrictions are there. With
Okay.
respect to that, here we are not having any characteristic restrictions at all.
Right.
But then we are carefully bypassing the wild automorphisms which one can come across with
Okay.
taking G as an abstract group. Yeah.
Right.
Anirban, myself, Rajat Kantinath from Tezpur University.
Yeah. Hi.
I have one question. So what you have done, you have considered twisted conjugacy class,
Yeah.
and your group is linear algebraic groups.
Yes.
And you are
yes.
finding